right, I think we're just about ready to get started. How is everybody doing today? Good. All right, this is our first day of big programs on Thursdays during the summer reading program. So thank you so much for coming. We'll have big programs every Thursday at 10:30 and then again at 1 o'clock. Sometimes they're the same one, sometimes they're different. So make sure you check on that calendar. Yeah, there's a lot of people in here. So I'm glad that everyone was able to find a spot. Just a couple announcements before we get going. Jennifer is going to walk around to show you the animals. So make sure that you're being on your best behavior when she's walking around with animals, because they can startle pretty easily. I also want you guys to be really good listeners. It's way more fun for everyone if you're listening and only talk when she asks a question, okay? All right, let's go ahead and get started. Let's give a really, really big warm welcome to Jennifer. She's from the National Mississippi River Museum in Dubuque. Oh, you have yours.
Yep. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Jennifer, and I came over here today from Dubuque, where I work at the National Mississippi River Museum and Aquarium. So can you raise your hand if you have been there before? A lot of us. Excellent. So if you've been there before, you might know that we do have a lot of different animals. I brought 5 of our animals with me today so that you can meet them up close. So while we're doing that, I need everyone to keep me at my pathway open. So can you two gentlemen scoot to the side for me? Thank you. And while I'm talking, I'm going to be walking around with our different animal friends. And our animals, there's only one of them, and there's a lot more of us. 250 of us. So to help our animals be comfortable teaching, I need all of us to be sitting on our bottoms and to keep our voices off. That way all of our friends can stay out so that you can get a really good look at them. Okay? So what we're going to do today is we are going to talk about reptiles and amphibians. Have you heard those words before? Yeah. Perfect. So we are going to learn what the differences are between those two groups. So does anyone know an example of a reptile? Can you raise your hand and tell me an example of an animal that is a reptile? Let's see, how about over here? It doesn't have hair, so that's one characteristic of a reptile, absolutely. Can you maybe give me some specific examples? Yeah. Reptiles do have scales, that's exactly right. So can anyone raise their hand and tell me an animal that's body is covered in scales? Snake. A snake, that's a great example of a reptile. And I did bring a snake today for you to meet. Yep. Now I will tell you that it's okay if you're a little bit nervous about my snake. Because our snake that we're meeting today is super friendly. His job is to come teach people about snakes. So you don't need to be nervous about my friend at all. So we have a snake. What's another example of something like a reptile? Oh, a crocodile. Yes, so crocodiles and alligators are reptiles. Lizards are reptiles, and I do have a lizard with me today. And there's one other type of reptile that I brought today, and this one actually has a shell. Oh, what do you think it is? A turtle, yeah, so I brought a turtle with me today as well. I then brought 2 amphibian friends, and amphibians are relatives of reptiles. So I brought, do you have a guess? I brought a frog. I actually brought a toad, but we do have a frog and toad. And then there's one other amphibian that I brought today. What is it? We brought a salamander as well. So you're going to get to meet all 5. So to start with, I need 2 volunteers. Okay, because we're going to help figure out some of the differences between reptiles and amphibians. So I'm going to have 2 people come up. Why don't you come on up? You can go stand up front, and in the purple, come on up. Okay, perfect. Oh, no, it's just a small crowd. We're good. Okay.
Small crowd.
Okay, so you 2 are going to help me with the very first thing that makes reptiles and amphibians different. And that has to do with their skin. So I would like each one of you ladies to put one arm out, just like that. Perfect. And we are going to talk about the amphibian and reptile skin. So I'm going to give each one of you something that represents skin. So I'm going to have you put your arm in the bag.
Can I rip it?
Perfect. No, you cannot rip it.
But it's already ripped.
No, yep, perfect. Just put your arm straight out. Okay. And then we're going to give our other animal a paper towel to represent skin. So I have 2 different animals. And what we're going to do is we are going to have it rain on our animals and see what happens, okay? So we're going to start with you. So when it rains on your skin, is your arm going to get wet underneath?
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay, we're going to test it. We're going to see. Are you ready?
I thought it was my finger well. I think it did.
Your skin got wet in the plastic bag?
Sort of. No. It doesn't.
No, I think you felt the cold water.
Oh,
I think
yeah,
you.
my finger didn't either.
Okay. Are you ready for yours? Did your arm get wet under your paper towel?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So you 2 have skin. One represents reptiles, one represents amphibians. Reptiles have scaly, dry skin. So that's what this plastic bag represents. This animal is an amphibian. Amphibians always have wet skin, and they soak up things from their environment like a sponge or like our paper towel did. So by looking at their skin, we can tell who is who. Perfect. Thank you very much. You can both have a seat. Let's give them a round of applause. I appreciate your help. So we're going to meet our very first amphibian. So this is going to be an animal that does have smooth skin and likes to live near the water. So we are going to meet our toad. And like I said earlier, I am going to walk around. While I am walking around, I need all of you to remain on your bottoms and keep your voices off so that everyone gets the chance to observe. So this particular animal is a toad. So toads are actually they look very much like a frog. And this particular toad is called a cane toad. So cane toads, like many frogs, love to eat bugs. They love to eat. Oh, I need everyone to remain seated so that the rest of our friends can see. Thank you.
That's like a human.
Oh. Yep. So we need to remain seated so everyone can see. So our frog and toads love to eat bugs. They love to eat meat. And they eat just about anything that moves. So this toad will actually eat things like other frogs. And some frogs and toads actually are able to eat things like mice. So even though they don't seem like a top predator, they are fierce. Now this toad, this toad, one of the things that most people look at or notice first is that this toad has very large eyeballs. This toad needs to use those eyeballs for a very special reason. So I want you to think about your tongue. Your tongue is attached in the very back of your mouth. If you are a frog or toad, your tongue is actually at the very front of your mouth, which means that your tongue is not very good at helping you swallow. So this toad, when it catches that fly or catches that insect, it puts it in its mouth, and then what it does, I want you to stay where you are, is that it will squeeze its eyeballs, and its eyeballs will actually go down into its mouth and help its food go down into its tummy. Yep. So I want everyone's attention, please. Can I have everyone's attention? I would like all of us right now to pretend we are frogs. So in order to swallow, you're going to have to go like this. So I would like all of you to pretend to swallow like a frog right now. Let's see it. Perfect. Yep. Now, frogs and toads, they do jump around. Yep, they move. But they have a very special life cycle. Because when they are born, they look nothing like their mom or dad. So I need 2 more volunteers. Let's see, why don't you come on up? And let's have you come on up, okay? Perfect. So I am going to have you two use some good describing words, okay? Because what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you actually shut your eyes and reach into something and describe what you feel. Yeah. I promise you it is nothing dangerous, it's nothing gross. You're actually going to laugh when you see what it is, okay? So we're going to start with you. I would like you to close your eyes. And I'm going to take your hand, and we're going to move it, and you're going to now move your hand around and describe what you feel. Slimy and wet, is it hard or squishy?
Squishy.
Is there one or is there many?
Many.
Okay, so we have many, we have squishy, we have wet and slimy. You can open your eyes. It's Cheerios in water. Yep. So that is our first example of how these animals start their life. Okay, now it's your turn, friend. So we're going to have you shut your eyes, and we're going to have you reach into my other bowl. Okay, so I'm going to take your hand, and I want you to reach in and describe what you feel.
Sandy.
So we have Sandy.
Sorry.
That's okay. Pull it out. Is it hard? Is it squishy?
Hard.
Hard. Are there one or is there a lot of them?
There are a lot
There's
of them.
There's 2. So there's hardly any. Okay, so you can open your eyes. So it's just a ping pong ball in sand. But this represents, both of these bowls represented eggs of animals that we are meeting today. So some animals lay their eggs on land, and they lay just a couple hard, smooth eggs. Other animals, they lay a lot of eggs in water. So our amphibians, they lay a lot of eggs in water. Our reptiles, they lay their eggs on land, and just a couple. So thank you very much. You can go have a seat. Let's give them a round of applause. So our toads and our frogs start their life as an egg in a pond. And when they hatch out, they actually look like this. So this is a tadpole. And as that tadpole grows, they are actually going to slowly grow legs. That tadpole, as it grows up, its tail is going to get smaller and smaller, and then eventually it is going to turn in to a frog. So when the animal turns into a frog, okay, when the animal turns into a frog or an adult, they're ready to actually come on land. But even as an adult, if you're an amphibian, you always have to live near water so that your skin can stay wet. Okay, so our next animal starts its life as an egg in the water. It kind of looks like a tadpole, and when it turns into an adult, it has 4 legs and 1 tail. So, this is our salamander friend. And again, I am going to walk around, boys and girls. Okay. Hey, boys and girls, I need your attention. I love your excitement, but if we can keep our voices off, that will make our animal friends more comfortable so that we can spend more time with them. So we can all help out by being nice and quiet. So this is our salamander today, and this particular salamander is called a tiger salamander. The tiger salamander gets its name because it has stripes a little bit like an actual tiger. It also likes to eat anything that moves. So this is a carnivore. Nope, we're not touching, we're remaining seated. So our salamander will eat bugs, will eat worms, will eat mice, will eat other salamanders. They're not picky eaters. Yep. So looking at it, it doesn't look like a fierce predator, but they have a very big appetite. Salamanders, you might not have seen one in the wild before, but if you look under logs, the salamander, that's their favorite place to hide. Do you have a question? Okay. So a lot of people think that the salamander looks like a lizard, but we know this is a salamander because it has smooth skin. Yep. When I take our lizard out, you'll notice that their skin looks a little bit different. So what we're going to do next is we are going to move on to our reptile friends. So with our reptile friends, I'm going to be walking around with the animal in my hand. So that means that it is super extra important that we remain seated when I'm walking around. I do not want you to touch my animal friends, okay? At the very end, we will actually make a long line and you will have the chance to touch if you would like. But for right now, I want all of you to remain seated, okay? So how many of you are maybe a little bit nervous about reptiles? We have a few people that are maybe a little bit nervous about snakes and lizards. Remember that our animals at the River Museum, their job is to come teach people like you. So if you are respectful and follow the rules, we have nothing to worry about, okay? So we're actually going to start out with the snake. And I will tell you that this snake is one of my favorites. And again, if we're all nice and quiet, that will help our animal friends be comfortable in front of all 200 of us. Well, okay, everyone. Shh. This is my snake friend. This snake is called a Kenyan sand boa. So this snake actually lives in the desert and likes to bury itself in the sand. So this snake has very smooth scales. And like the name implies, it actually does live in Kenya. So it does live in Africa. This is a real snake. And as I am walking around with her, I do want you to, again, remain seated, but you can see that she is sticking her tongue out. They use that to figure out where their dinner is. So she is sticking her tongue out to see if there are any mice in the library. She's not going to find any. I haven't seen any mice here today. But she's just trying to figure out who is in the neighborhood. Yep. So she is going to eat, again, pretty much anything that she can catch. Some of her favorite foods does include mice. She loves to eat rodents. She also would like to eat a bird egg because that is a tasty treat for her. But even if you're nervous about snakes, the one thing that I want you to go home and tell all your friends when you tell them that you met a snake is that they are really, really awesome to have in your backyard because they eat all of the mice. And if you've ever had a mouse in your backyard or in your house, you know that mice can actually damage your property. They can chew through things. They might destroy crops. So our farmers, they're not great to have in our cornfields. And mice, they actually spread a lot of things that make us as people really, really sick. So even if we don't think that they're our favorite animal, I just want you to know that they have a very, very important job in their habitat. Now, as she's moving, you'll notice that she can bend her body in a lot of different ways. And what I want to ask you is, do snakes have backbones? No. Snakes do have backbones, just like you and I. So she just has a lot more bones than you or I, and that's why she can be a lot more bendy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put her back in her pillowcase. She is one of the animals that I can bring out after the program, so all of you can meet her up close if you would like. But you can see she's very friendly, and she just looks like a very big worm. So she does nothing to be nervous about. Oh, you have a question while I'm putting her away? What is your question?
Why does she hide now?
Oh, that is a very good question. Can I have everyone's attention? Perfect. The question was, why does our sand boa want to hide in the sand? The answer is, if you live in the desert, it gets really, really hot. So she buries herself in the sand to stay cool. It's kind of like Mother Nature's air conditioning. On top of that, if you bury yourself in the sand, it helps you hide from things that might want to eat you for dinner. So, for example, a lot of hawks would really like to eat a snake for a snack. A lot of bigger snakes might like to eat a small snake for a snack. And other lizards eat snakes for dinner. So by hiding in the sand, it helps her stay safe. Now, before I answer any more questions, I do want to walk around with this. This is a snake skeleton. So you can see just how many backbones one snake has. And because they have so many backbones, that's why they can move the way that they do. Now, this particular snake skeleton is from a venomous snake. Now, can I have everyone's attention? Because I am going to ask you one more question. My question is, do you think the snake that I brought today was poisonous? No. You're so smart. You are right. And I'll tell you something else. There's no poisonous snakes anywhere in the world.
What?
There are no poisonous snakes anywhere in the world. Now, there's something very important about poison and venom. It has to do with how an animal makes you sick. If you are a poisonous animal, to make somebody sick, the person has to bite you. If you're a venomous animal, you have to bite the person to make the person sick. So it has to do with how the animal makes you sick. The Kenyan sand boa is a non-venomous snake. That snake is a constrictor, so she squeezes her dinner. Now, interestingly, I already introduced you to our poisonous animal for the day. You met a poisonous animal. The toad, very good. The toad, if you were to bite the toad would make you very sick. Now, I am confident that none of you will bite the toad today, so we're all safe. Yeah? Okay. So I see that I have a few more questions, and I would like questions, not stories. Okay? You can tell me your stories at the end of the program. So what is your question?
How does the snake not suffocate inside your pillowcase
Oh.
or under the sand? Doesn't it need to breathe?
How does the snake not suffocate? So if you are paying attention, you notice that our snake went into a pillowcase. I tied the top shut and then latched its container. And that's because snakes are really good at sneaking into teeny tiny spaces. So I want to make sure our Kenyan sand boa stays in the back seat and doesn't come join me in the driver's seat on the drive back home. So she is fine. They do have the way that they bury themselves in the sand. When I take her out at the end and you come up close, her nose is not straight like a lot of snakes. Her nose actually curves up like a shovel. So her nostrils are a little bit higher up. So her nose can stick up right through to the surface of the sand, while the rest of her is buried underneath and stays nice and cool. So they do have a special nose to help them do that. Okay, I'm going to have one more question, then we're going to move on to our next reptile friend. Oh, so the question is, if I were to bite the frog, I would get sick. But what if the frog bit me? Nothing would happen. It might be a little bit startling because they move so quick, but their mouth just feels like sandpaper. So it wouldn't be anything for you to worry about. So up next, we are going to meet a lizard. Oh, I'll get them out and tell you, okay? Aha. Okay, everyone. Again, she's a teaching lizard. You have nothing to worry about. But she actually has some very cool adaptations, one of which actually tells you what kind of lizard she is. So this lizard, I want you to watch her face because her tongue is a very special color. So her tongue, I want you to keep an eye on so that you can figure out what she is. This particular lizard is native to Australia, and she looks very much like a very, very, very venomous snake. She mimics their colors, and she mimics their behavior. So she is very good at pretending to be something scary. She, however, is not scary. She's not poisonous or venomous. She's just pretending to be. She is, so I saw her stick her tongue out. Did anyone see what color it was over here? No. It was a purple blue. Very good. So she is what we call a blue tongue skink. That is exactly right. Skink, S-K-I-N-K. So she is a lizard. So she has ears. So if you look behind her eyes, she actually has 2 holes for ears. So she can hear all of you very well, and that's why I keep asking you to be nice and quiet. We want to be nice and quiet so that we don't make our lizard nervous. Because lizards, when they get nervous, they can actually try and move really fast, and that wouldn't be safe for her. And they can actually lose their tail. Looking at her, she has a very nice long tail. This is where lizards store their fat, so that if they can't find enough to eat, they can still have enough energy to survive in the wild. And she is what we call an omnivore. She likes to eat both plants and animals. So she's going to eat bird eggs. She's going to eat very large bugs. She might occasionally eat some strawberries. Back at the museum, she gets a fruit salad a couple times a week. And she actually takes her vitamins just like you or I. So she has to do a lot of things to stay healthy. And lizards, like all reptiles, they have scales, and they do shed their scales at various times. Our snake sheds their scales in one very long piece. Our lizard sheds their scales one at a time. So our lizard sheds more like you have a sunburn and you start to peel the skin off. That's the way our lizard sheds her skin. So do you have any questions on our lizard right now? We'll take a couple questions, and then I have something that I need help with. Yeah?
How long does it take for them to lose their tail?
How long, we're going to get to that, okay? We'll talk about that in just a minute.
Oh.
Yeah.
How is it really?
How is what?
How is it really special?
How is she special? Because she has that bright blue tongue that she pretends to be dangerous to predators. But she's not. Remember, she's just very good at pretending. Because hawks and eagles and bigger lizards, they think that a lizard like this would make a very good dinner. Okay, so I have, before we go on to our last animal friend, I have something that I need help with. So I need 2 more volunteers. Let's see. Let's go with, how about you? Yeah, no, the little, yeah, you. Perfect, the smaller boy. And then I need, how about you in the lightning bolt shirt? Okay, so can both of you come up here? Okay, I'm going to cover the mic so I can whisper directions to them, and they're going to help me out, and I'm going to do an activity, okay? So I'm going to have you be my lizard predator, so you're going to be something like a hawk. And what you're going to do is you're going to grab my lizard by the tail. Think you can do that? Okay, so lizard, come over here. When it grabs your tail, you're going to let go of your tail and run to the back of the room. Sound good? Okay, so I need to give my lizard his tail. So can you hold it just like this? Okay, grab this. Perfect. And remember to let go when he grabs it. Okay, so my lizard, can you just kind of walk around doing your lizard thing? Can you walk around? Perfect. Now our hawk over here, he really wants dinner. He wants a snack. So he's going to go fly and try and catch our lizard. So our lizard, sneak up on him and grab him by the tail. Oh, perfect. Now run away, lizard. Perfect. Okay. So, hawk. Oh, come back. Come back. Come back, lizard. Come back. here. Did you catch dinner? Yeah, what'd you get?
A tail.
A tail. So this is kind of like going to McDonald's and getting one chicken nugget. You got something for dinner, but you maybe didn't get as much food as you wanted. Now our lizard got away, right? He ran away, he survived, he made it, but he now has no tail. Lizards, though, they are super awesome because most of them can grow a tail back. They can regrow their lost tail. So they are going to do that. It's going to take them a couple years. It's going to be slow, but eventually they'll have a brand new tail. So I think that's pretty awesome. So thank you very much. Let's give him a round of applause. You can go have a seat. Okay, so before we all take off this afternoon, I have one more animal to introduce you to. And this turtle, this animal is a turtle. It does have a shell. And I want you to think about when you see turtles in the movies and the cartoons, what a lot of them do is they actually take their shell off and run down the sidewalk. That can't happen in real life, and I'm going to show you why. Our turtles, their backbone, so if you could take your hand and feel those backbones, they actually have their backbone attached to their shell. So their shell grows with them as they age. When you start out as a baby turtle, you're about the size of a quarter. And as you grow up, you're going to shed one scale of your shell at a time, and that shell will very, very slowly grow with you. So that tells you that this turtle is actually quite an old turtle. The shell that I have here today is actually from a snapping turtle. So snapping turtles, you might actually see them around your neighborhood. They're pretty common here in Iowa. Snapping turtles have a very cool way of catching their dinner. What snapping turtles do is they sit and they wait. They are perfectly still. They freeze. They sit and wait. And while they're waiting, what they do is they open up their mouth and they stick out their tongue. Because their tongue looks exactly like a worm. So they're fishing just like you or I. They slowly move that tongue, and the fish is like, ooh, dinner. And the fish swims closer to catch the worm, and then the snapping turtle gets dinner instead. So it's a pretty cool way of catching your dinner. These guys, if you ever see one in the wild, what I want you to do is I want you to leave it alone and go find mom or dad. Because these guys have a very, very bad bite. So if you ever see a snapping turtle, I want you to go find an adult and tell them about it. Now, the thing about turtles is we can tell where they spend their days just by looking at their shell. So I would like everyone to face me. And I would like you to put your hands like this. Perfect. So your hands, we're not going to be making noise. We're just putting our hands like this. Your hands now, we're going to pretend are a turtle shell. Your bottom hand is called the plastron. So can all of you say that? Plastron. Perfect. Your top shell is called the carapace. Excellent. So your carapace, your top shell, tells us if you spend most of your time swimming or most of your time walking on land. So if you are a swimming turtle, you want to be nice and flat and streamlined so that you can swim super, super fast through the water. So if you're a flat shell, you live in the water. However, some turtles have very tall shells. So can all of you make a tall shell now? Good job. So if you have a tall shell, you spend most of your time on land. You like to walk through the woods and find some really tasty leafy greens and bugs to eat for dinner. And if you are a land turtle, you're able to pull your legs and your arms into your shell, and you're able to pull your head all the way into your shell so that you can pretend to be a rock. Because if you pretend to be a rock, nobody will eat you. So those shells tell us a lot about the animal. So keeping that in mind, what I would like you to do is when I get the turtle out of its enclosure, I want you to quietly observe the shell shape and try and figure out if it's going to live in the water or live on land. So she's a little bit larger in size, and this turtle is a very special turtle. She looks a little bit different than the turtles we have around here because she's actually found on islands near Australia. So as you look at her, one of the first things you're going to notice is she has a very, very long neck. And her neck actually reminds some people of a different animal that you met today. Some people think it reminds them of a giraffe because they have a very long neck. But she's not a giraffe turtle. She is a snake-necked turtle because her long neck and her face remind a lot of people of a snake. So as you're looking at her, she cannot pull her face all the way into her shell. She also has webbed toes. And can everyone show me with their hands if she has a flat shell or a very tall shell? Perfect. Oh, you're so smart. Most of you are showing me a very flat shell. So you are right. She does spend most of her days swimming in the water. Yep. So those webbed feet help her swim. Her streamlined shell helps her swim. And what she likes to do is she likes to actually swim in very dirty water. Yep. She hangs out in very muddy water. So that's why her shell is a great way for her to camouflage. She can hide right into that kind of cloudy water. Her skin also helps her hide in her habitat so that she stays nice and safe. Now, because of her long neck, she can't pull it all the way in, but she does have a decent bite as well. So when we hold her, we always hold her shell. We don't go near her face. Do you have a question?
If a snapping turtle bit you, what would happen?
If a snapping turtle bit you, what would happen? They could do some very serious damage to your fingers or toes. In fact, it would be so bad you'd probably need to go to the doctor and maybe get some stitches. So it's something that you always should go find an adult to help you if you see a big turtle. Are there any other questions on our turtle? Yes. Questions, not stories. Questions. Oh, so if you find a turtle or any animal in your backyard, what should you do? What I would like you to do is to leave it alone. Because chances are that animal is just trying to find its dinner, it's just trying to find its way home, it's trying to survive. So the best thing is for you just to observe it with your eyes, but stay far enough away that that animal can just continue to go whatever it's trying to do. This time of year, This time of year, we see a lot of turtles crossing the road because the females are trying to get to a pond to lay their eggs. They have to find a good sandy habitat to be able to lay those eggs that we saw on land. So even though she lives in the water, she has to find a good sandy spot to have her kids. I'm going to take one more question before we wrap up. In the back with the red bracelet. I couldn't hear. How can its neck move? So its backbone is part of its spine. It just has a lot of neck bones, just like you have neck bones, that helps it be able to move its neck around. That's all. So it has a very similar skeleton to you. The biggest difference is we don't have a shell. But otherwise, it has a lot of the same bones in its fins or its flippers and whatnot that you and I do. So I'm going to put our turtle away. And I have a couple questions before we all take off for the day, okay? Because we learned a lot about different animals today, and I want you to go home and tell all your friends and family how cool the frogs and the snakes are. So can anyone raise their hand and tell me one really awesome thing about an amphibian? What makes them special on their body? Amphibians have smooth skin. That's exactly right. So our frog and our salamander have smooth skin. And when they lay their eggs, where does an amphibian lay their eggs? On land or in water? Water. Perfect. In water. And are they squishy or are they hard? Squishy. Okay. And amphibians, do mom and dad look just like their babies? No. No. And in the reptile world, so our turtle, snake, and lizard, where do they lay their eggs? Our reptiles lay their eggs on land. They lay just a couple. And what is covering their body? Scales, that's exactly right. And even if they make us a little bit nervous, we want to remember that all animals have an important job in their habitat. So we should just let them go about their business. Now, before we all take off, I do want to thank you for being here. If you want to come visit the museum or if you want more information, I do have little rat cards for the adults. I also have temporary tattoos that the kids can take home. What you can do is we're going to make a single file line. You can walk by and look at our amphibians, and I will be holding a reptile. Oh, can everyone give me your attention? Because this is very, very important. Thank you. So I'm going to get a reptile out that you can touch. And the way that we touch our museum animals is we do a 2-finger touch. So can all of you show me your 2 fingers? Perfect. And we're going to touch the middle of the animal. With our animals, we never touch their nose or their tail because that is what makes them super, super nervous. So we just touch their middle, and they're used to meeting a lot of people. But to do this, I need you to use hand sanitizer before you touch them. You're going to rub it in really good, and then you're going to use hand sanitizer afterwards so that our animal stays healthy and all of you stay healthy. So what we're going to do is we're going to form that line. I'm going to get the snake out. So you are not required to touch, but if you are interested, you can come up and meet our snake friend up close. Okay, sound good? Thank you, everyone.